Next on the 5 o'clock report.
There was no blinking.
Bully him right back.
Stop these tariffs.
Reality is quickly striking the market.
It's beyond repair.
Dangerous for the United States and humanity.
I've seen it light the whole sky up.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Tariff tension eases, at least on one front. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster.
There was no blinking. She's a wonderful woman.
President Trump saying neither he nor Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum blinked when they reached a last-minute deal today to pause threatened tariffs for 30 days. A deal that will see 10,000 Mexican soldiers sent to the border with America to try to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal immigrants into the U.S. At last report, tariffs, though, still set to lock in at midnight against Canada and China over the same issues.
We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that. But long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world.
Well, this Canadian woman in Ottawa is ready to drop the gloves.
Trump's pulling his moves. I just hope that the Canadian government bully him right back.
Among those here objecting to the tariff strategy, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York.
I am saying to President Trump, stop these tariffs. You campaigned on lowering prices.
Now, just how might Canadian retaliatory tariffs impact you?
Trucks made here, like the Chevy Silverado, Toyota Tacoma, and Ford Super Duty, could cost Americans considerably more. Soda and tuna fish could be more expensive, too, now that Canadian aluminum will cost American canners 25% more.
Reporter Chris Mavridi in Toronto. Wall Street felt the impact as well, recovering after a morning nosedive. Market analyst Eugene Peroni says investors got spooked.
Reality is quickly striking the market, that this could have significant and perhaps lasting ramifications and impacts on the economy.
We'll have the closing numbers for you later in this newscast. A Trump administration threat to retake control of the Panama Canal over concerns about growing Chinese influence in the region appears to have been heard by Panamanian leaders.
The Panamanian government announced that it's not going to renew its agreement with China and its Belt and Road Initiative, that major global infrastructure plan that China's had in place across the developing world for several years.
CBS's Ed O'Keefe. The Trump administration is also working to shut down U.S. aid. That shutdown being carried out by Elon Musk, leading the White House effort to downsize the federal government. Here's Musk speaking on X.
It's beyond repair. None of this could be done without the full support of the president. Actually checked with him a few times. Said, are you sure? I'm like, yes. So we're shutting it down.
Responding, the former head of global health at USAID.
What's happening right now is dangerous for the United States and humanity. These are programs touching hundreds of millions of people around the world.
USAID is the largest distributor of foreign aid in the world. Another day of recovery efforts in the Potomac River near Reagan National Airport in Washington, site of last week's deadly mid-air collision between a passenger jet and a U.S. Army helicopter. Salvage crews spending the day trying to lift remaining wreckage out of the water.
Our goal is to really lift as much as we can, given the fact that we are also accounting for the human remains component.
Meantime, the Army's looking into why its helicopter apparently strayed from its assigned altitude and course.
From tragedy, we draw knowledge to improve the safety for us all.
More from transportation reporter Chris Van Cleve.
According to the NTSB, the airline pilots appeared to pull up about a second before the crash, and investigators are working to understand if the air traffic controller's screens were providing the helicopter's actual altitude leading up to the collision.
Next to Philadelphia, where investigators are trying to determine what caused an air ambulance jet with 6 aboard to nosedive into the ground shortly after takeoff. Those who live in the Philly neighborhood where it went down won't soon forget.
I've seen it light the whole sky up, and it was just like the mushroom explosion lit the whole sky orange. And I can still smell the smell. Even when I'm home cooking, if I smell something burnt, it reminds me of it.
All 6 Mexicans aboard that jet died, as did 1 motorist on the ground. 22 people were injured. And in Houston yesterday, passengers forced to quickly deplane from a United Airlines jet at George Bush Intercontinental Airport Sunday morning after an engine fire during takeoff. United Flight 1382 with 109 people aboard was headed from Bush to New York's LaGuardia Airport. No injuries were reported in that emergency evac. Elsewhere, a busy week ahead in Congress.
The House and Senate will continue work this week on a top-line spending number to fund the government past a funding deadline in March. Meanwhile, the Senate is expected to vote this week on on President Trump's nominee to lead the Department of Energy, Chris Wright.
Fox correspondent Ryan Schmelz. The Senate might also vote on the confirmation of Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi. Now, tough getting a loan lately. A bank rate survey finds about half of people who applied for one last year were turned down.
Those Americans at the bottom end of the spectrum, low income, lower credit scores, they're the ones who are having the toughest time.
That's analyst Sarah Foster. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, a very unhappy second anniversary on the PA-Ohio border, the right way and wrong way to deal with lithium-ion batteries, and the best way to foster student success.
Evening rain and rain showers, flipping to some snow and snow flurries overnight. And it'll coat the ground a couple inches in parts of central New York. Low temps in the 20s and low 30s. Some slippery conditions will develop. On Tuesday, clouds break for a little sun. A few lake flurries around a colder day. Temperatures in the 20s and low 30s. Wednesday, some sun, then clouding up with high temps, 20s and low 30s. A more potent system bears watching for Wednesday night and Thursday. It could be significant snow, ice, and rain then.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania, as Kevin alluded to. Quiet weather for most of the listing area now, but a winter storm watch is up for portions of western Pennsylvania for midweek. WJAC meteorologist Caitlin Westerholm in Johnstown, PA.
By later Wednesday evening, we'll see that freezing rain and sleet mix move in for early Thursday, so we likely will see some slick roads to start Thursday morning before we'll see that change over to rain and warmer temperatures by Thursday afternoon.
We'll check in with Kevin again later in the newscast for your local forecast. Vice President and former Ohio Senator J.D. Vance visiting the Ohio-Pennsylvania border town of East Palestine, Ohio today, 2 years to the day after a toxic train derailment impacted people on both sides of the border. Vance says the administration hopes to revisit legislation designed to make railways safer.
We had the legislation. It was bipartisan. We had it in a place where it would have passed the United States Senate. Chuck Schumer just refused to bring it up to the floor for a vote. And so, I think things are a little bit different this time, and we're going to make sure we get this right.
A new lawsuit was filed today alleging for the first time that people died because of the disastrous derailment. The suit contains the first 7 wrongful death claims filed against Norfolk Southern Railroad and also alleges that the railroad and its contractors botched the cleanup. Lithium-ion batteries have been in the news lately, usually for starting fires, and that has an area disposal company sounding the alarm. Modern Disposal lead driver Kyle Bowser tells Spectrum News one of those improperly disposed of batteries caused a fire in his truck.
Driving down the road, started noticing smoke, kind of one of those things where you're not sure if it's actually happening. You just get something that catches inside and it goes up pretty quickly.
Modern's VP of Operations, Dennis Moriarty, also survived a battery-caused truck fire.
They're in everything. They're in cell phones, laptops, electronic devices, cars, right? And for the most part, they're safe. If you put a battery in a truck, it's a compaction vehicle. That creates a thermal reaction.
Several nationwide chains offer free, proper lithium-ion battery drop-offs, including Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, and Walgreens. Doubling down on abortion, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, flanked by abortion supporters, today signed legislation effective immediately that allows New York doctors to omit their names from prescription bottles for abortifacients. The move comes after a Louisiana grand jury indicted a New Paltz doctor and her practice for prescribing them to a woman there where the drugs are illegal. Hochul also vowed to not sign any extradition papers relating to the doctor's case. Well, more than 2,000 people who were asked to go jump in the lake did just that this weekend at Rochester's annual Lake Ontario Polar Plunge, all to raise money for New York's Special Olympics. These intrepid plungers told WHAM,
"It's cold, but it's okay, because it's for a great cause. It doesn't matter."
I'm feeling a little bit cold, but honestly, I'm feeling great. This is what it's about.
This year's 25th anniversary Lake Ontario Plunge raised $350,000. Things are looking bright at the SUNY system's second largest campus in terms of enrollment, so says SUNY Binghamton University President Harvey Stanger, who recently delivered his annual State of the University address.
We're building a new dormitory for 400 students. We're building a new classroom with 1,900 seats in this lecture hall classroom building. We're renovating our East Gym. We're spending $575 million on projects over the next 5 5 years.
Binghamton University's current total enrollment is at an all-time high of 18,815. Well, up next, a Pennsylvania-based education analyst says families and American culture need to better foster success for students of all ages. Young Voices commentator Neetu Arnold says schools need to celebrate academic accomplishments as much as we cheer for sports teams. She talked education with Family Life's Greg Gillespie.
When they express an interest in an activity, just giving your full 100% support, your encouragement, and maybe just being there for the kid. I think that, I know that sounds very simple, but I think that would make a big difference. And that's what I think is so great about America. It's that we value all kinds of skills, but that's where I think we need better math education. Instead of I see one problem with the way we promote math here. It's just that I think a lot of people are trying to make it more friendly because I guess it scares off kids, and they're not so focused on the teaching as much as they are on just making it fun and accessible. And I actually think we're wasting a lot of kids' time there. A lot of kids would get pushed ahead even if they hadn't mastered concepts in previous grade levels. And so that's why they felt like they couldn't do math, because they couldn't. And until we address those issues, that's when they gained the confidence to tackle math problems. And so I think maybe there also needs to be a culture where it's okay that your kid, like every kid is going to be on a different timeline and they're going to achieve things at their own pace. And so maybe it is okay to hold back a child if they haven't mastered certain skills. We shouldn't see that as a problem.
Your voice is, I think, in some ways kind of rare. People want to be so kind and nurturing to children, but the sense of accomplishment after you've done the hard stuff, even after you have to loop through that lap several times, you feel so much better about yourself with the accomplishment rather than just being thrown into an even harder brick wall.
I mean, I think as a culture, we fear struggling. If you see your child struggling, I think that can be a hard thing to see. And yet I think it is kind to help your child. And sometimes you have to make them go through tough things so that they come out feeling a sense of accomplishment. I think it's actually cruel to make a child think that they are prepared for the next grade level, and then you see them struggling and they don't seem to understand why. And it's not really the child's fault.
Neetu Arnold of the Manhattan Institute talks more about parenting and school success in a new Family Life special feature. Find it by searching Family Life News on popular podcast platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple, or get it from the podcast page at familylife.org. Your nightly market report is up next, brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street closed lower after a volatile start to February. Stocks trimmed losses after a sharp sell-off prompted by new U.S. tariffs, but markets then staged a comeback after the U.S. and Mexico announced that tariffs would be paused for a month, though tariffs on Canada and China are still set to take effect at midnight. At the closing bell, the Dow lost 122 points to 44,422. The S&P 500 fell 46 points to 59,94. And the Nasdaq dropped 235 points to 19,392. Faithward Advisors, a Christian financial planning firm helping faithful stewards do more. Details are available at faithwardadvisors.com. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Christians now give a smaller percentage of their income to their churches than they did during the Great Depression. Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. The reason people often cite for not giving more is financial bondage, usually debt. Another reason is spiritual bondage. Our will is not in tune with God's will. We make decisions that prevent us from giving more. Galatians 5:17 says, "For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, for these are opposed to each other to keep you from doing the things you want to do." The solution is to pray that the Holy Spirit will help align your will with God's will. We should do this all the time, but especially when we feel convicted about giving. When your will lines up with God's, you'll find a way to give more. Discover the best Christian financial articles, podcasts, and videos by visiting our website, faithfi.com, or by downloading FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store.
Still to come on the 5 o'clock report. Still playing pretty at age 100 because she had a pretty good teacher. We'll tell you about it next.
A disturbance crossing the area tonight will bring in colder air once again, ending our brief thaw and causing rain to change to snow. Amounts will be slight, but some road surfaces will slicken. The call for tonight: cloudy, evening rain and showers, late night snow and flurries. Low temperatures dipping back into the 20s. Much colder tomorrow. Clouds, some sun, a few lake flurries. High temps mostly 20s, low to mid 30s central and eastern Pennsylvania. Wednesday, some sun, high temps 20s and low 30s. Snow, ice, and rain late Wednesday night into Thursday.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And finally at 5, here's a free piano lesson from 100-year-old Ruth Slonczynska and the famed composer and pianist Sergei Rachmaninoff. You see, Ruth is his last surviving student, and here she relates what he taught her on getting to really know a piece.
Remember, I played for him something, and he said, "You don't know that well enough to play it at the tempo you're taking." I said, "Well, I've been playing it for 3 weeks already." He said, 3 weeks? That's nothing. After 3 years working with it slowly, fast, until it is yours. And then you can present it.
Words of wisdom from Rachmaninoff and Centurion Ruth Slonczynska. And that's the world we live in for Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.